Okay. Okay. Look, well, anyway, good afternoon, and thank you for coming here. This session, we wanted to inform everyone, the press and the public through you, what we have been doing since our July board meeting, where we indicated that we would review this matter concerning the tweets or social media concerns of Vice Chairman Scanlon. During that process, we did say at the meeting, we did say that the board would handle this in a professional and expedited method as best we could. But since our board meeting, the executive committee has met several times to discuss this issue. One time we did meet with Vice Chairman Scanlon to talk to him and discuss this directly. We have reviewed, the executive committee has reviewed various courses of action with our board attorney. It's not totally clear in our actions just what legal pathways we have available to the board. We're hoping to have that done very quickly so that we can present it to the board. What we are trying to accomplish is by our review, is to try to present to the board, and we're having a special board meeting on August the 20th, so if you can put that in so people know, it's an executive session where the full board will examine this. Now the question may arise that people will say, why did you wait till August the 20th? Well, the real issue here is that our board members are literally spread across the world. We have people traveling, we have people on work-related things, and trying to get a meeting in August when we normally don't have a meeting is very difficult. So we did finally get to a date where most of the board members will be there. President Connolly and myself believe that we need to have board members face-to-face, not on telephones or anything else to discuss this matter. So that's why we had a meeting originally scheduled for the 10th or 12th, yes. I'm not quite sure, but then we had then people decided they let us know they were going away, but so be it. The approaches and possible board action is going to be really dictated and presented to us by our board attorney through his research and what, again, paths we have available to us as a board. It's not as clear as we would like it to be. There are overlapping situations and regulations and legislation that tend to conflict. We have our own bylaws that we have to look at. So it's really kind of a situation where we're working our way through that, and I know that legal counsel has indicated that we will be having those cleared up, hopefully as best we can, by the August 20th meeting. I would like to say one thing is the fact that the board's overriding objective in this review is that we maintain the integrity of the Sussex County Community College community. That's our overriding thought. We do have, the board has approved, and we do have a mission, and we do have core values that this board has approved through our strategic plan. And one of those core values is for us as a board to create a campus environment that cultivates civility and respect. And believe me, that will be an overriding factor when I address the board on the 20th. So that's where we are. It continues to evolve, and again, we just wanted to talk to people saying we haven't sat on our hands, we haven't sat back. We are pursuing this in the best possible legal and intelligent manner that we can. Any, Glenn or John? Nope. Okay, if you have any questions, if we can answer them, we'll be glad to answer them.
President Connolly, have you called? Have you called for his resignation, and why or why not? And has that been discussed in any way?
That's really a matter for the chair of the Board of Trustees, not for the president of the college.
At this point, I can't answer that particular thing because the board hasn't really got to a point where we met and all agreed on any course of action. So it's whether John, myself, or Glenn, whether we have a personal opinion in the process really doesn't matter until we were able to address the full board with it.
There's been a lot of external calls for his resignation, including from the governor. What do you think about that, and what's your response?
Again, we are going to go through this review in a legal and intelligent and professional manner, or this is a community college board of trustee matter. We are going to confine it to there at this point. We appreciate everybody's opinion, but we have to make that final decision.
Can you talk about the kind of response you've gotten from the community or students? Have there been any, letter campaigns or anyone calling the office?
No. I mean, there has been some communication, but I think that's all part of the social media phenomena. We haven't really received anything here.
Dr. Connolly, can you speak to what the college's response would be should this have been something that a student would have done? What would
I don't understand. Well, Jennifer,
what would the community college, what would the response have been from the school should this post have been done, should this tweet have been created or done by a student?
You want me to answer that? Sure. I know, because I looked it up.
Okay.
I didn't anticipate that question. I looked it up for a different reason.
Okay.
But the college has a code of conduct for students that attend the college.
Yes.
And a code of conduct covers a great deal of different activities, including, I believe, something like this. So it would follow the code of conduct policy. And in that policy, there is a whole procedure that you go through that might probably take longer than a month. But the question comes in is, that's how that would be handled if, in fact, the student had done that.
Given some of the heated political rhetoric we've seen lately, and including anti-Muslim comments and some of the comments about these congresswomen, how will you set an example for students? How will you ensure that this kind of conduct is addressed for not just in itself, but for the larger public?
I think, personally, as chair, I see this as how we proceed and how we review it and how we take all the facts and all the legal situations and how we work our way through that to whatever the logical conclusion is. I think that has more impact long term than whether we say this should happen now, that should happen now. I think by working through this, I think will be our biggest benefit as when we end this. And know how we would treat this as we go forward with any other issue that may be this explosive, if you want to call it that. Okay.
Without saying anything about whether he should resign or what action he should take, what do you think about the nature of the comments? What are your thoughts about what was done or what was stated?
I personally, and as chair, if I said anything of what my personal opinions are at this point would be prejudicial to whatever decision comes out. But some people may not like it, some people will like it, depending on what side you're on and not on. So my job as the chairman is to conduct the discussion, not to necessarily lead it to a conclusion with my comments or my personal opinions.
So you said you had one executive meeting with him?
Oh, well, yes, one with Vice Chairman Scanlon.
Vice Chairman. Yes. And has there been any other discussions? Has the attorney met with Mr.
I was in at that meeting, but that was all.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah, we've had some dialogue after that meeting,
Okay.
but nothing conclusive at this point.
You mentioned the executive committee. Who is on that? Is that just Board of Trustees? Is it Dr. Connolly as well?
It's, the executive committee for the college is myself, obviously, Mr. Michael Speckart, who is the secretary, Tyler Morgus, who is the treasurer, and Mr. Scanlon.
Okay, so up to the four.
Yeah, it's hard to discuss the issue without discussing the person who's involved. It's kind of hard to do that if we don't have him there.
Have you heard anything from the freeholders about this issue?
I haven't.
Nothing?
I have not.
Okay.
I haven't heard, as a chairman, I haven't heard from any
I'm
public
unofficially,
official.
Right, okay,
Oh, I don't, I take it back. I have discussed this with Congressman Guttheimer.
okay.
Okay, I just make that clear that that statement is not completely right when I say no public official.
Can you talk about that conversation?
No, he was very supportive. He understands the process. I know he's concerned. I think the congressman is concerned on the reflection of the college and how it reflects, any decision reflects on it. It's a very, very informative and really thoughtful conversation.
What about, well, you're concerned about how this reflects on the college, or, what?
Well, I think that's, as I said before, I think that we are concerned about the integrity of the college and how it reflects. That's our prime job, okay? There's a lot of noise on the outside, there's a lot of stuff, but President Connolly and the board are really concerned, and our objective is to be concerned about the college community. And the college community is the staff, the students, the faculty, and the community. So, that's where we have to make our decision. That's where we're zeroed in on. That's paramount. I like your questions. Keep going. You're doing their work.
I know you said that you want the whole board of trustees to convene, but I know you also said you wanted to review the process and the bylaws. So I guess I would put this to you. But so what have you determined is the process or the bylaws?
I haven't determined anything yet.
Yeah.
We're in the process of looking at it. We will certainly advise them when the time is right, and we will certainly work through the chair as to what to do.
So is there? So you say, I know you said there's no clear path, but
Yeah, well,
is there?
Well,
is there, I mean,
we have some ideas, but we do have to talk with our clients first. So
Okay, but what can you say about the procedure for something like this? Like
we're going through the procedure.
We're going through the procedure.
You're witnessing it right now.
Let's go this way, okay, and show you how it gets, where different things pop up. Today is Monday, right? Is today Monday? Tuesday?
Today's Monday.
Today's Monday. I go these
Still
days.
Monday.
When you're
Yeah,
retired, it has to. But anyway, today's Monday. As close as last Friday, okay. I called the attorney and I said I happened to read in a Star Ledger article something about this type of case, and it seems to add a new wrinkle to it. And I said, could you research it? So even up till Friday, okay, there are things popping up that we never thought of, okay. There's a lot of different ramifications in the law and regulations in the state that we have to be we be careful for everybody's sake, okay. I mean, that's the key. We want to be fair to everybody in this situation.
Were these comments discussed or known before? Did anyone know about the comments or the tweets
Before the meeting?
Before that meeting, where people came? No.
I don't tweet. I don't have a tweet. I don't have a Twitter account. I don't do. So I would not know. As Thomas Friedman said, tweets used to be something I heard from a bird in the sky. But it's a different world today.
Do you anticipate any actions to be taken after the August 20 meeting? Where you have the deadline of school opening, students coming onto campus. Do you expect to have any?
I could only speak for me personally, as I hope so. Okay. The board has to make that decision, so I hope so.
So they've been kept apprised of your process. The rest of the board has been kept apprised of your process.
They know exactly what
real-time?
you know today. Okay.
I know you said you didn't know about the tweets prior to the meeting.
Yes.
So is there any type of, social media monitoring for the members of the board? I know some, when you're looking for jobs, a lot of employers are monitoring your social media feeds.
Oh, yes. That's very common. I don't know whether anybody has advanced to that level of checking social media of any board members that are appointed. You know what I mean? And it's
hard enough keeping track of our own kids and making sure they're not
but
when they go out for a job interview or apply to college.
I would say this, that if that were to be done, that really is in the bailiwick of the search committee and the freeholder's appointment. It would not be on this board. That would be during the search process.
So isn't his term up though?
Yes, in October.
In October, and
Yes.
he cannot be reappointed anyway because of term limits.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question.
That complicates the process too.
I would imagine,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
You said earlier that there is a code of conduct and that a student making tweets like this could face certain consequences. What kind of consequences could they face, possibly?
You know, it's a very, when I was reading it, I went through it, and for some reason why, I ran across it, and I was reading it, and they could be, but the process can be anything on that. From what I read, okay, and I don't know of any case that we've had involved in this, okay, even on the student level. It could be anything from the student from being a slap on the wrist, so to speak, to expulsion, depending on the severity. But that's determined by, I believe, 2 levels of review boards that are made up of faculty members and students and stuff like that.
What if it was a member of the faculty as opposed to a board member?
Oh, that I don't know.
Those are hypotheticals.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that would go.
Could a faculty member face any disciplinary procedure if they did the same thing?
Go ahead, John. I think, John, what you said.
Yeah, I mean, if it really,
you have a code of conduct for your faculty as well.
That I don't know.
is there a code of conduct? It's primarily dictated by 2 things, the faculty handbook and the faculty contract, and those things are spelled out there. There's also, as you are well aware, academic freedom and what then constitutes academic freedom. Any of these things would be peculiar to the individual case. And so hypothetical is really an impossible thing to answer on that, in that particular area.
The main reason I was looking at, the students and also the faculty is right now we're in a very charged, polarized political environment nationally and on the state level. And there are people hurling things on both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. Now this happens to be against the 4 congresswomen. But what about on the other side, where there are certainly schools out there where faculty members, professors have tweeted the president's this, that, and the other thing. Would they be, whatever you decide to do in this case, would it also apply on the other end? And would it also appear, like you said, fairly to students and faculty as well as just board members?
Really, that's a really interesting question. It really is an interesting question. I don't think that we're prepared to answer that, to say what is the right course. All I could say was the question if a student did it, and I happened to read the student code of conduct, because when I saw it, I had the same thought that everybody else had, but what happened if a student did it, okay? And I read that. So I read that, and I said, gee whiz, there is a process. There is a step-by-step process that student would have a right to go through. And never really thought to talk about the faculty or anybody else. So we'd have to look at that. I'd have to see what.
And if you actually look at the literature and on the internet, you'll find a load of examples of different universities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, different policies, have
community
different policies at different colleges.
And I would say with respect to that, because this is a matter of all the things that you described, which is very, very political in its process. There's also academic freedom when it pertains to what's actually happening in the content in the classroom. That's something different. So for example, if you've got a faculty member, they're teaching art history and they show naked bodies in an art history class, is that a violation of any kind? One would hope not, all right? But, and then there's First Amendment rights, okay? There's freedom of speech, okay? Where those things blend, that is a hot item nationally. There's no question about that. So your question is relevant, and I'm not dodging it, because we are going to be facing those things in one way or another. But they're dictated by the individual circumstances. Every case, there is absolutely no formula to any of these.
Let's just say this, okay? In this particular case, without going to students or faculty or whatever, I think that every public official has an obligation to present themselves in a civil and professional manner in every way that they act. I think that, to me, is the bottom line here, okay? No matter who we talk to and whether that is. And we have an obligation to do that as public officials. And without getting into any major philosophical situation, is that, basically, if we can't do it here in the local community, we can't expect any differently than our representatives in Trenton or in Washington. So I think we have that as an overriding factor too. I mean, we probably have, you know, there are extremes on both sides. We have to take that. We've seen that. However, I think it's incumbent upon us local public officials, all of us, to act in a civil and professional manner and be able to discuss things based on policies as opposed to race, religion, creed, or anything else. So that's what we're trying to set the tone for. Hopefully we can accomplish that with our board and with the decision that we make. So I'm sorry if I can't answer all those questions on the faculty, but I'm going to look at it though, just for the heck of it.
There's plenty of material.
There's plenty of material to review, so they're good questions. They're very good questions. I would think they're questions that the public would be asking too.
Going back to the freeholders, you mentioned that they're the ones who appoint the trustees. Is that, as far as you know, was that the avenue that would go if they decide to remove him from the trustees as well, or is that a decision you can make, or is that something that you still have to go through also?
Well, I don't know at this point, Kyle. I would think that when we put all this legal mumbo jumbo into a big pot, and we come up with some type of stew, that may or may not be a course of action that the board takes. We don't know that until the board takes a look at it. Any more?
No, I just want to ask you to clarify one.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
The code of conduct you said was for the students?
Yes,
I just missed something. You said it was, they could go before a...
Oh, there's a process.
There's a
judicial board and
So,
stuff like that.
These things,
yeah.
there's a tiering of that. It goes to the associate dean of students. It then goes to the dean of student services. There's then a sort of a judicial process that includes a judicial board.
It's on our website. You can go look at it.
And that's something that would, like, even student social media could trigger...
That's a good, I think the process of social media is so, let's say this, you could talk to Facebook people and you could talk to Bill Gates, you could talk to the guys from Microsoft, you could talk to them, and it's natural language to them, okay? It really comes down to the local level where it's not quite that type of language yet, okay? And there's a lot of new ground being broken on what social media means to anybody, okay? And what is the right to privacy? What is the right to say what you want? John says First Amendment rights. I mean, does it pertain to Title IX? Does it not pertain to Title IX? Does it pertain to the Code of Ethics? Does it not pertain to the Code of Ethics? I think social media approaches are not quite clear at this point for a lot of elected officials and appointed officials of what they can and cannot do on social media. So, hopefully we're not breaking too much ground here with our decisions.
It's
only Sussex County Community College. I
feel like, at any college you could have like a packed room if that was the, I think that's the way that,
we're tucked up here in New Jersey. We have 140-some thousand people. It's a nice community. It doesn't, but modern times have caught up to us, and we have to make these decisions. That's the reality.
Well, it was a small board of education in Mississippi in 1954. Right?
Oh yeah, when you get that, but we're not hoping that we go to the Supreme Court for a major decision on this. Okay, at this point. So. Go ahead, Jennifer.
You mentioned code of ethics. Is there a code of ethics that pertains to, a specific code of ethics that pertains to the trustees?
That is a very good question, okay? There is a code of ethics, okay? However, it's not quite, when the code of ethics were redone, if everybody remembers way back, not that far back, 6 years ago, the more concern of the Code of Ethics was conflicts of interest with monetary
That's typical
issues.
through the state for boards of education as well.
Yeah, and that's our problem with that. Matter of fact, when we're finished with this, the attorneys are going to start working on a code of ethics that sort of covers everything. It's just, but a code of conduct and stuff like that. but you know, there's parts of it, you know, that may pertain, there's parts of it don't, but 99% of it was drafted because of the problem that was at hand with the financial aspects of the college. And that gets to be a little bit tricky in how you make that leap, you know. And you know, I can't blame, that was what the board had to face back 6 years or 7
That
years
was
ago.
the big issue then.
That was the big issue of there were a couple of board
Financial-
members that had conflicts
Conflicts of
on
interest.
contract approvals. You know, and that normally happens, whatever the issue is on that particular thing, you concentrate. Not thinking 6 years ago, there might be some social media problems. I hope we were able to answer most. I know that there's probably, you're saying you're not telling us all. Yes, we can't. So
We can't because we're not in a position.
we're not in a position to, but
We